Good morning. It's a beautiful day, as you can see from the grey skies that we're so used to. And I thought this video would be a really good one to talk about something that I'm seeing become kind of popular again, and something that I think I've had at the back of my mind for a while now as well, and that is brain rot. Brain rot. Apparently it's now been added to multiple dictionaries. It's Oxford's word of the year for 2024. Brain rot. It's 2 words. Are they that fucking stupid? Anyways, that is a serious problem. I think I've said before in a couple of videos that I think of phone addiction as an epidemic, and it is something that's as serious as, if not more serious than smoking, or widespread alcoholism. If you want to see a country that has widespread alcoholism, just look up those videos that go through the history of Russia and how, fucking 60% of the population has probably spent the better part of their lives under the influence. And that's maybe a little off topic and a little bit mean, really. If you want to think about why life does not feel quite so enjoyable for you, if that's where you're at the moment, and you're sort of feeling like things aren't going so well, I would urge you to consider your daily routine. If you wake up, immediately look at your phone, and you're all of a sudden scrolling for 15 minutes, you've started your day off with a really high hit of dopamine, and when you go to sleep, your sort of dopamine receptors, they more or less reset, which means that when you wake up and they're more or less reset, and you're back down to like a base level. There's a very good video by I believe the guy's name is Charlie Morgan. He's quite a distinctive sort of YouTuber if you are looking at this kind of content. When I say this kind of content, I mean what I'm producing, which is sort of self-improvement, getting rich and getting yourself off of bad stuff. And he calls his particular method dopamine loading. Now, that's basically where he wakes up, immediately gets to work, does not spend time doing anything but work and quote-unquote boring stuff until about 7 in the evening. So he wakes up, he has a very plain breakfast, immediately sets to work. Oh no, he wakes up and has like a cold shower actually. Immediately sets to work on like boring stuff. First thing he does in the day is eat that frog. If you know that phrase that you do the hardest thing first, you just get the bad thing over with first thing in the day. And intentionally keeps his dopamine low. Now, when it gets to sort of 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, because when you go to bed, your dopamine resets, that's when he is okay with himself watching short form content and like engaging in high dopamine activities, which is probably quite a smart way of playing it. The reason I think that that's kind of a smart way of doing it is because that is probably how your parents were trying to raise you. There's a reason why you had to eat dinner before you could have your dessert, right? You had to eat the thing that's not quite as, sugary or nice tasting before you could eat the thing that was. If you apply that to your adult life, and if you apply that to things like work, it really does make a difference. If you get things out of the way, if you make sure that when you wake up in the morning, you're not immediately going on your phone, you're not immediately playing games, you're not immediately doing stuff that really is meant as a reward, okay? And think about it, are you basically rewarding yourself for nothing? You wake up, give yourself a hit of dopamine, maybe you eat like shitty cereal or something like that that's like high in sugar rather than something that's good for you, and you play a couple of games, you watch some short form content, you watch some TikTok before you go to work. What that does is it immediately sets the amount of dopamine that your brain has had that day high up here. And when you get into work, you're always thinking about getting back on the phone. You're always thinking about taking a break. This is a big thing that I certainly see at my work, where people are finding it difficult to remember. They have sort of quite poor short-term memory. They're a bit dazed a lot of the time as well. It's certainly not everybody, but with symptoms as severe as that. But I'd say that I see that in everybody, including myself, in some way, shape or form. I see a couple of those symptoms in everybody, because everybody has those things. Now, when I, earlier this week, watched a few videos, interestingly enough, I think by YouTubers who are like feminists, so it was, you know, a little bit different for me. When I watched a few videos about that, it was more or less about the fact that brain rot's now been added to the dictionary. Brain rot is you scrolling on your phone all the time and suffering things like short-term memory loss. So the term brain rot is not just a joke. It is actually what is happening to your brain when you do that. It is actually you losing cognitive function. That in there is the biggest asset you can have, and life is fun when you use it. Life is far, far better when you use your brain, when you're learning, when you're making mistakes, and not when you are obsessed with basically, you know, easily digestible, very stupid stuff as well, really stupid stuff. The purpose of short form content now is, you've probably heard a lot of people just talking about the attention economy, about how so many things want your attention. That's totally true. And think about it, if you are struggling with constantly being on your phone and going on Instagram, that sort of thing, and you, every time you take a bathroom break, every time you have, 5 minutes to go make yourself a coffee or something at work or something like that, every time you do that, you're also immediately going on your phone. It's robbing you of any chance to think. It's robbing you of any chance to sit for 5 minutes just by yourself. And if you're struggling to fall asleep at night and things like that as well, and maybe you're quite advanced into this and you need to like smoke weed, for example, just to get to sleep because you're so busy and you can't get out your head, that's why you're not giving yourself any time to ponder stuff, to dwell on things, which is not something that a lot of people do anymore, and it's becoming increasingly just rare for people to do it. What is quite encouraging is that I can make a video like this off the back of other people already having made videos a bit like this. It's there was one that specifically said that going offline, being offline, could become the next status symbol. I think it probably could. There's a great, which book was it now? A great book called Essentialism, and in Essentialism, I say it's great. It's not too bad. It's a bit of a minimalist manifesto, but in Essentialism, there is a bit where he talks about the asset of your body and your brain, and how it used to be a status symbol for guys in Silicon Valley, in high finance, that kind of thing, to say, God, yeah, I only get 4 hours sleep a night. That's how hard I work. 4 hours, oh yeah, I get 3. And they basically viewed sleep as like a necessary evil that they were trying to keep down as much as possible. If you ever find videos on sleep experiments where they were, where they're trying to do, 2 hours sleep, 4 times a day, this kind of thing, where you go into deep sleep, just so you know, that's really fucking bad for you, and it's not something you should do. There's never, like, an awful lot of people who try that. They're basically like running on empty all the time. They are technically getting, 8 hours of REM or whatever, or they're trying. I don't know how long you're in REM. Maybe it's 15 minutes for the whole night. So they make sure that they're in REM the whole time. But just, it's not good for these people, and it's regularly looked at after a certain amount of time what getting 5 hours sleep a night does for you, and it's disastrous. Now that being rich is slightly different, it's moving away from demonstrations of wealth. I've talked a few times in the videos about the book The Millionaire Next Door, and more about that. I'll come on to that book a little bit more, but that book does go into some quite good detail about the fact that an awful lot of millionaires are not how people think of millionaires. They are married to the same person for like 30 years. They don't drive new cars every year. They don't buy a new car every year, basically. That is called living high, which still requires a high income, but it's a lifestyle that's extremely dependent. An independent millionaire, someone who is usually in, a proper high accumulator of wealth, maybe not even a millionaire, they end up being someone who can live off of their accumulated wealth for, decades, 10 or 15 years, definitely. A lot of people who don't have that and are simply living high, they're living to paycheck, but their paycheck has simply got more zeros than yours, are not independent. They're not enviable. That's not a lifestyle that you want to have. Because think about it, the lifestyle that you have now, you might be making 12 grand a year or something like that. Do you know what fucking 12 grand a year did in 1910, right? If you think right now that your lifestyle is shit and you're making 12, 15, 20 grand a year, 1910 making 20 grand a year was, that put you in a mansion, that put you in a huge house. So simply making more and spending it on more expensive stuff is not freedom. Because again, I know the stuff is not as high quality and things like that, but I mean, what does it matter? And I think actually as well, if you're into cars at all, there's a very good argument to be made for the fact that when it comes to an actual ownership experience, buying a new 7 Series now is a fucking ball ache. It's 138 grand or whatever. And the thing is packed with lane assist and things that beep at you if your eyes start to, close. And you know that if you buy a diesel, you're in for an AdBlue issue. The petrols are, just extremely expensive to run, all this sort of stuff. Go and buy like a Toyota in 2005 and you bond with it. You can bond with an old Subaru. You can bond with an old Honda or an old Toyota. Cars have really become appliances, and that is not something that you have to pay for to get a good gelling experience with. If you want something that you gel with and that you like, you buy an old car, you drive it, you clean it, you do the oil changes yourself. That's how you get a meaningful experience. Being rich, you can't really, like, if you are high income and living high, you don't get that same experience by constantly just taking a Ferrari 550 in for a service or something like that. It's not an enjoyable experience. It's not the one that you want. So, rambled on for a little bit there, just about the difference between high income and being wealthy. And that's something that I always, I will probably come to quite a lot in these videos. It's something that's definitely worth knowing. But wealth, prodigious amounts of wealth. If you make 30 to 40 grand a year and you think to yourself, I will never be a millionaire, you could quite easily you could probably save 30% of your income. So let's call that between 9 to 12 grand, so call it like 10k. Let's say that you could save 10k a year if you're making that sort of money and you're not living somewhere ridiculous where the living costs are stupidly high. You could aim to be a millionaire in your 60s. And that's that's very, very achievable. You can be on normal wage. Just don't fritter it away in bullshit. Now that I've got that out the way as well, with regards to high income and things like that, I'm having to try and remember where I was because I've had to keep pausing it and stuff. My dog's been running off. When it comes to high income and living high and wealthiness and things like that, I think that what a lot of people are doing when they want that sort of lifestyle is comparing. And you probably do not know many millionaires. I know a few, and 99.9% of the time, just you're going to be talking to them as like a normal person. It does not change your life that much. But when you are on Instagram or social media and you're scrolling, you end up like comparing with what it's like to spend that money rather than what it's like to earn it as well. You think of the good parts of someone else's life, but you don't think of all the effort and the bad parts that it takes to get there. Now, again, that is where I suppose I was going with the fact that simply higher income and more money is not going to fix your life. What is going to fix your life and make you feel better is learning a skill and enjoying a skill as well. I think that's the main thing, enjoying a skill. With the topic of this video being brain rot, the trouble with brain rot is that the asset that you hold in your head, your brain, the most important thing in your life and the very reason that humans are the dominant species on planet Earth. We've gotten to this point now where we're using apps to just constantly distract us 24/7. That's making us ill. It's making us sick. We're using shit like large language models, or learning language models, LLMs, and AI to do all our work for us. It's making us more stupid as well. So there's measured cognitive decline from LLM usage. I don't know if there's measured cognitive decline from Instagram usage yet. I can't imagine that it's too different though, because of what everyone reports, what people say about having poorer memory, about being shorter-tempered, about not wanting to learn as much. And ultimately that's what it comes down to. If you want to get back that childlike love for curiosity and learning new things, you need to put the fucking phone down. You need to look around at like the books that are gathering up around you that you buy and then you don't have the motivation to read. You need to look at that as your next thing. So I seriously urge you right now to stop watching this video, turn me off. Come on, turn me off. Stop watching this video. Delete YouTube, delete X, delete TikTok, delete Instagram for 2 weeks, right? Is that so hard? You're probably going to spend 20 years of your life on the fucking internet. Can you diminish that by 2 weeks? Right now for me. Could you just do that right now for me? Take it down by 2 weeks. Take it all off for 2 weeks. And instead, try a couple of different things. Now, there are really good videos on how to make sure that you can stay motivated with certain like new hobbies and new tasks. But just get rid of it all for 2 weeks. See how you feel. If you're noticing these symptoms, if you're noticing your memory, if you're noticing lack of motivation, if you go to bed every night and it's tough for you to sleep, turn off your phone, take your headphones out, that sort of thing. I'm starting to lose my own train of thought. I've touched on a couple of different topics, so I'm just going to go back through them now. So first off, brain rot is, I think, another one of these things that we're now starting to see a shift in, where people are talking about how they used to, Instagram and everything, Tumblr used to be such a big part of your personality. Now, maybe people's personalities and their status is going to come from being offline, like it has most of our existence. It's only the past 10-ish years, maybe 15, where we've had like this level of internet access, and it doesn't seem to have done us any good. Next as well, using something like that, all this time that you'll suddenly find that you have to improve your life. It's not going to be through basically filling up your day with more short form content that you have a better life. It's going to be through trying more meaningful stuff. It's going to be through trying something that you've always thought of. For me, it might be writing a book, for example, but never actually been able to see all the way through. Again, it's getting back that curiosity and that love for learning that you had when you were very young. Next, it's always the, being wealthy versus being a high income earner. There's a huge difference. One is a lifestyle of freedom. The other is a lifestyle of dependence and, magpie syndrome and constantly wanting to have more. It's a craving for more that never gets satisfied. A little bit like being on your phone all the time and always watching short form content all the time.